Hello again. Today, we're going to be talking about understanding how to have an assertive setup call with your clients. So when you're going through the sales process to turn someone from a lead to a client, there's a lot of things we do to have them feel welcome and ready to buy from us. And one of the best things we can do, and one of the first things we always do, is we set them up to meet with us, or we set them up to come out and check out our product or service. And yet, I find a lot of us as entrepreneurs don't place the amount of importance that we really should have on that setup call. A lot of times it's a 1 to 2 minute call, given a time, location, and date, we'll see you there. But if you really understand the mechanics and the human psychology of what a setup call can really do for your sale at the very end, you'll see the opportunity you've been missing in how to have an assertive setup call. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. How to do assertive setup calls. And by the end of today's video, I'm going to have you have a 5-step process to make sure that every setup call you do ensures you've got a client that's going to meet with you that's ready to buy. So let's go through it. I'll give you a bit of a personal story too where some of this comes from. I used to do a lot of working with franchisees and hiring basically franchisees to buy franchises. And I found that although they were excited and interested to learn about the idea of running a franchise, unless I really spent a lot of time with them on the phone, setting them up, telling them what they're going through, some of them wouldn't even show up for their first meeting with me. So they just didn't know what they didn't know, and they missed out on lots of opportunities. So when I started implementing this 5-step process I'm going to show you today, I went from having about 50% of the people that I would set up come and meet with me to having about 90% show up, and almost all of that 90% be extremely enthusiastic and curious about what I had to offer in that franchise. So that's what I'm going to show you today, how to get really good results so that when you're sitting down with someone to do a sale with them, they're already halfway there and they're already thinking about buying it from you. So let's jump into it. So you can see on the screen, there's 5 steps, fairly self-explanatory. And some of this you may understand and recognize, some of it you may not totally have seen in the past, but at the end of the day, very few of us actually use these 5 steps on a regular basis, especially when we're in a hurry trying to set up a lot of our clients all at once. So these 5 steps should take about 10 to 20 minutes to do a proper setup call with a client over the phone. And let's just walk through them and I'll give you an idea, each step kind of what we'd be looking at. So introduction. So the main thing with an intro is obviously when you're first on the phone with someone, you just kind of want to know how they're feeling, make sure you state the purpose of the call, and just spend some time building rapport. So a lot of times I write notes every time I meet a client, so it's always good to write some notes, maybe last time you met with them, and ultimately kind of last interactions you had with them, maybe following up with that, find out how they're doing. The biggest thing when you first get on the phone with them is just to ask, do you have 10 minutes to speak? Because you're going to go through this whole setup call with them, and if you don't ask that right in the beginning, they might rush you or feel rushed, and you don't want to do that. It kind of sets you off a little bit as well. So introduction, you kind of get on the phone with them, introduce yourself, ask if they have 5 or 10 minutes to speak. Then you just kind of take some time getting to know them. The reason you do that is you want to make sure whatever's going on in their world right now, you kind of get on that same wavelength as them. So if they're having a really great day and they're high energy, find out what's been going on and connect with them on that, and you match that energy. If they're kind of having a bad day or something's gone wrong and there's something else in their mind, take some time to just process that with them first before you jump into doing a setup call, because they might not even hear you the whole time if you're not taking the time to connect with them. So introduction, usually about 3 or 4 minutes. How's it going? Build some rapport. Make sure you state that you're going to be on the call for about 5 or 10 minutes with them. As well as, here's the other thing, let them know the purpose of the call. So after I built some rapport, I said, just so you know, the reason I was calling you is I wanted to set you up for such and such a meeting. Just so they know, like, I am calling for a specific reason as well. And that's the big thing about an assertive setup call, is I don't want to be passive and just build rapport and pretend to, I'm not calling for a specific reason. And I also don't want to be aggressive and basically be saying, yeah, let's just set you up, let's just get this thing going and goodbye. I want to be assertive. I want to build a relationship with them, and I want to team up with them. That's the biggest thing about the word assertiveness, is how do you partner with someone properly? And in this call, that's ultimately what you're doing, is partnering with them into that meeting you're moving into them with. Okay, so step 1, intro. Do you have 5 or 10 minutes? Build some rapport with them, and then just state the purpose of the call. Step 2, find some needs. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of us go out there and find needs, ask needs questions, and basically sell to our clients. But I'm going to put a bit of a spin on this. When you're setting someone up to meet with you, be the professional. So you need to basically be the person who values your time. You're going to give that client your time to meet with you to figure out more about that product or service, and you need to make sure they see that value as well. So when I'm probing for needs, I'm not just selling to get them excited. I'm getting them to prove to me why they want to meet with me. So I ask questions like, what is it that interested you about this product or service? Why do you feel this would help you? ultimately getting them to prove to you why they'd want to meet with you. So let's give an example. So let's say you're selling a franchise, just like I used to do. So when I sold franchises, I would really say to them, based on what you know so far, what interests you about running a franchise with us? How do you think that would help you long term? What would that really do for you? What are some things that you could learn from doing that? And all those questions, they would now be proving to me why they'd want to meet with me. And in the process, they're selling themselves. I don't have to take the time to prove it to them. They're proving it to me. They're so busy doing that, they've sold themselves into wanting to meet with me, basically. So when you're finding needs, ask questions in a way that allow them to express to you why this would be of value to them. You will find sometimes clients don't know anything about your product or service when you're calling them. So to ask a question about what interests you about this, it might not make sense because they might say to you, you know what, I don't know anything about it. That's totally fine. Before you start asking those questions, give them a 30-second commercial on the product or service. So basically you finish your intro, just to let you know this is what we're calling about. Let me tell you about, a little bit about us and what we do, about 30 seconds worth, and then you can go into those same questions. So based on what I just told you, what interests you about that? How do you think that would help you? They're now selling to you. Biggest thing with step 2, finding needs in an assertive way allows you to maintain control when they're selling to you. Okay. Step 3, expectations of the meeting. When you go into a meeting, I want you to think about this. When you've gone into a meeting where the agenda's been set, the person knew exactly where you were going to start and exactly where you were going to end, you probably felt pretty taken care of. And the same thing when you're setting up with your people, especially when you're setting up the clients that you want to sell to. Biggest thing is let them know the goal of the meeting. So the goal of the meeting today is to do such and such. Let them know what you're going to be doing during the meeting. So during the meeting, we're going to do this, this, and this, without giving away everything, but just give them a general understanding of what the meeting's going to be all about. Here's the toughest part that a lot of us struggle with. I let all of them know at the end of the meeting, you're going to have a chance to move to the next step. So for some of you, that next step might be buying a product or service. So at the end of the meeting, you'll have a chance to make a decision on whether or not this is right for you. For some of you, it might just be moving into another meeting. But at the end of the day, I always let them know the goal of the meeting is this, give them a brief idea of what we're going to do during the meeting, and then let them know at the end of the meeting, you'll have a chance to buy this product or service, so you have a chance to make a decision on whether or not this is right for you. Just to respect their time and let them know, again, that's how that assertiveness is. We are coming to meet to see if this is something we both want to work together on. So that's expectations. Step 4, a lot of us do this. So this is setting up logistics. This is the time, this is the date, but take it further. Check their contact information. Just want to make sure your email address is correct. Just want to make sure that your phone number is correct. And take time to make sure that all your details with them are correct. Because you'll notice sometimes you'll have a meeting the day before, you go to call them and you realize, shoot, I wrote down the wrong number. Or you go to email them and it bounces back, shoot, I don't have the right email. So check all your logistics, your date, your time, but also check all their contact information as well. And then step 5 is the conditional close. And this is something that so few of us as entrepreneurs do because of fear. The conditional close is all about basically having an if statement to allow them to say, if this is right, would you buy from me? So I'll give you a really clear one that I use a lot. If you like the product or service, and you like what you see in me, is there anything else that you would need to be able to make a decision that day? So it enables someone to basically say, yeah, actually, if you brought colors or if you did this, or gives them a reason to kind of have you bring something or do something extra to be able to make a sale. But here's the other thing it does. It allows them to think about it between now and the meeting. Do I really want to buy from this person? And it gets them ready to be able to buy. And it respects them too, because if you do a pitch at the very end of your meeting with someone and they weren't expecting to make a decision on the spot, it makes it tough for them. But if you had them thinking about it the whole time, you know what, like so-and-so asked, if the price looks good and I like what I see in them, would I buy? Yeah, I probably would. Great. Write that down as a note. And then when you meet with them, they'll have thought about that a little bit. And they'll be much more kind of interested and ready to buy at the end of the meeting. Plus, they'll expect it, so it's not too much throwing them off guard. So that's it. So that's our 5-step setup call. Introduction, taking some time with your client, getting to know them, asking for 10 minutes to speak with them, and just letting them know the purpose of the call. Finding needs, get them to sell to you. Instead of you selling to them, get them to prove to you why it's worth meeting. Expectations of the meeting, give them a rundown of kind of what you'll be doing, what the goal of the meeting is, and they'll have a chance to buy at the end. Logistics, date, time, contact information, and the conditional close. If you like what you see in me and the price looks good, is there anything else that you would need to get the job in that day? That conditional close is so important to getting people's minds prepped to buying with you. And that's it. That is an assertive setup call. In doing that, you're going to have more committed clients meeting with you. You're going to have people ready to buy, and you'll have weeded out some of the tire kickers that maybe you shouldn't have met with in the first place anyways. Other than that, I'll see you at your next best mindset session.